Welcome to the Claus YouTube channel.
Together, we strive for a safer, secure, and more stable world.
Good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to yet another episode of Strategic Frontlines. I'm Dr. Roshan Kinijo, and today we have four distinguished guests with me. From Nepal, please welcome Major General Binod Basnayak. He retired from the Nepal Army and is associated with Rangsit University, Thailand, and is a keen strategic thinker who specializes on geopolitics, national security, and politico-diplomatic issues of South and Southeast Asia. We also have Dr. Pramod Jaiswal. He is the research director at NICE, Nepal, and is a visiting faculty at number of universities in Nepal and China. He is also an alumnus of NISA, NDO Washington. He has authored, edited books on China and South Asia. From India, please welcome Major General A.K. Chaturvedi, AVSM, VSM retired. He is the Senior Vice Chairman of think tank Strive and the Executive Director for UP and Uttarakhand think tank Eco Development Foundation. He has been writing on national security and disaster management. Please also welcome Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh, PVSM, AVSM retired. He is the Director General of CLAWS. He is an expert of terrorism and is the author of acclaimed book, The Grey Zone Warfare. We welcome all of you. Today, we are going to discuss India-Nepal relations post-Operation Sindoor. We know that on April 22nd, 26 people were killed, one a Nepali tourist, in a very heinous terrorist attack. The symbolic manner in which it was conducted was really deplorable. India has been saying constantly that there should be zero tolerance for terrorists. And that is why Operation Sindoor main aim was to destroy the terror infrastructure, including the training camps and launch pads. So the issues which I want to flag before today are how India and Nepal can cooperate on counterterrorism, how can we enhance the interoperability and operationalize synergy between the two forces, as also, especially the border management area. How can the illegal activities, especially the third country nationals, can be controlled? Can we have any kind of institutional mechanism which we can develop to enhance the informational sharing? To debate on all these issues before we go to the Nepali speakers from Nepal, I would request DG Claus if he wants to add something and his views first.
Well, thank you, Dr. Roshan, and I must thank and welcome all our guests from Nepal, as also Jan Chaturvedi, who have taken out their precious time to join on this particular podcast or particular show. Nepal and India, I don't differentiate between the two, and there are many reasons for it. The first one is the geography. There is a natural geographical connection between India and Nepal, which brings them together, even if they don't want to do anything to come together. So there is so much of uh, so much of a natural affinity that it will come even if there are a lot of differences which might occur today or tomorrow or subsequently later in future. The second issue is about history. I think our history is so intertwined between each other that historically, if we really want to find a difference, also, it will be very difficult to find a difference. If, for example, when we were inaugurating the Ram Mandir at Ayodhya, there were there were artifacts coming from Nepal all the way, and there were a lot of things, coming something like a Sasural and Maike wala rista, that kind of a thing was there. So there is a natural connectivity historically and also socially. If you look at it from a social perspective also, it would be very difficult to actually differentiate between a person, whether he is an Indian or whether he is a Nepali. So therefore, our fates are almost linked by history, geography, and social culture. Even if you look at our trade, we purely from a percentage point of view, I'm not talking in terms of volumes. I'm talking in terms of percentage point of view. The number one trading partner of India is Nepal. It is 53%. No other country we trade so much as what we do with Nepal. Not even Bhutan. And then it is Nigeria, Ghana, etc. Bhutan comes much lower. So what I'm trying to say is that we have so much of commonality with each other that it is virtually impossible. I would call that we are Siamese twins, you know. So that's the way we are. But the Siamese twins sometimes look the other way around also. So it becomes very difficult for them to talk to each other because they're so close to each other that they find it difficult to actually connect in the desired manner as we would like them to get connected. So with this kind of a brief overview, I would be very happy if Jan Chaturvedi, because he has some different perspective on India-Nepal relationship, given the current happenings which have happened. You know, of Sindoor, you would have seen during the of Sindoor horrendous terrorist act, there was a Nepali citizen as well, Sudeep Nepiwane. He was also asked whether you are a Hindu or a XYZ. So, I mean, he got killed for no rhyme or reason. So somewhere, that's why I said somewhere we are like I won't say twin brothers. So we our fates are intertwined. So if we suffer, I think Nepal will also equally be affected by that suffering. And if Nepal suffers, we also will suffer. That is why if something happens in Nepal, even if there is an earthquake, we are the first one to respond. If there is any natural calamity, I think India is the first one to respond. There are always minor ups and downs whenever we have in bilateral relationship between the two countries. But if you see in terms of outlay in our budget as well, uh, we lay out a considerable portion of our external aid budget to Nepal, which is meant to go to Nepal for various projects, hydroelectric power, but it's not enough. That's my view is that it's not enough. There are a lot of rough edges in between. There are a lot of rough edges between our relations, especially those which have been created in the recent times. And also in Nepal, there are different kinds of movements which are taking place, pro-king, X party, Y party. That, of course, our guests will be able to highlight what are the challenges which we are facing. So, with this kind of a brief overview, I'll request Jan Chaturvedi to lay out the current challenges and what he thinks should be done so that our relationship from an Indian perspective improves. So, over to you, Jan Chaturvedi.
overview you have given. In fact, let us not go back into too much into history because we all know, and as Jan Dushyant very rightly said, that our fate had been intertwined from time immemorial, civilizational connect, religious connect, be it Hinduism, be it Buddhism, and all that thing which has been there. Uh, but there are certain irritants between the two countries, and which would be there. I have tried to say kind of a list some of them, uh, and first and foremost to my mind is, then 2015 the Nepali constitution was promulgated. A sense of deja vu was in people from Madhesh. Whether this was right or wrong is not for me to comment on. However, they tried to put a blockade, And this blockade, it was told that it was done by India at the behest of India, and it became very ugly, and that has resulted in a major trust deficit between the two countries. And it has got a history of Radhikapur of 1988 also. So therefore, this we need to take into account. Second is the post demonetization. Almost 950 crores of Indian money is stuck in Nepal, and they don't know what to do. And they have been taking up with Government of India, but Government of India has not responded to change it and accept it back, because it's a almost 1,000 crore is a big amount, and it needs to be addressed. Third is Nepal wants to kind of abrogate 1950 treaty, but for this there was a EPG formed. It was agreed in 2014. 16 it was ordered, 18 the report came, but it has still not been say acted upon by the two countries. Nepal feels that India is deliberately sitting on it, but I feel that time has come that this thing needs to be spoken and resolved between the two countries. Map issues post 370, when India issued the map of J&K, say boundaries being between say UT of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. So that is the time Nepal had its own issue about boundary dispute with respect to Limpiadhura, Kalapani, essentially Kalapani, and Supta Nadi. So therefore, that issue again needs to be addressed. Trade deficit, it said that is there, but almost 64% is in favor of India, because and that needs to be addressed, because then only it will give a kind of a confidence to Nepal that India takes care of them. And the last is Agnipath. Yes, indeed, from 1947, that tripartite agreement, when it was decided that 7 regiments in India would be there, almost 34,000 Nepali troops are there in India, and they have done a great service to India in all its war, from starting with 47, 62, 65, 71, Kargil. We have a famous case of, say, people like Dhan Singh Thapa in 62, Manoj Pandey in 71, two ends. So therefore, both were officers from those same Gurkha regiments. So therefore, this issue of 4 years with no pensionary benefit is an issue which is troubling Nepal. And there we know that almost 122,000 Nepali pensioners are there. And therefore, this pay and allowances is a major issue. However, can we address some of them? I'll give you my sense that what all can be done. To my mind, the first and the foremost is that in case if we go for energy is one area, it is kind of to my mind, is the base of everything. Nepal has got the potential of more than 45,000 megawatt of energy. I mean, realizable, although it is much more than it's some, but then what has been finally, which can be converted, it has got a lot of potential for solar energy, almost 2,000 megawatts. It has got a major, wind energy potential. So with all these things, but the problem is, as on date, almost just about 1,000 megawatt, say 3,000 is generated by Nepal, about 1,700 they use it, and balance about 1,000 megawatt they are giving to India. My sense is that it needs to be increased. So therefore, the infrastructure needs to be built, because there are only 2 lines from which the power can come. Second is that infrastructure to, say, harness this energy in all forms. Related issue, it can be that you can have industry coming up there. But for all this, you need capital, you need trained manpower, both. So for this, the cooperation could be in the domain of industry, where either government of India establishes the industry or they encourage Indian industrialists to develop these industries. Secondly, there are, although it's growing, 28% of Nepalese students, foreign students in India are Nepalese. So, but this figure needs to grow, because so that capacity is built to generate that kind of a industry. And that can happen only if Indian universities are asked to, instead of establishing in Singapore or the campuses in Dubai or some such place, Nepal would be an ideal place where if these campuses are established, a lot of local capacity would be developed. And the trade deficit can be addressed immediately if the energy is produced and case in point is Bhutan-India accord. Bhutan, income-wise, it's almost reaching the middle-income group. So therefore, this is one area where we can do a major, collaboration to help us for improving the lives of Nepalese. As far as Agnipath scheme is concerned, my own recommendation would be that in case if Nepal finds it not very conducive, 4 years tenure and no pensionary benefit, Government of India can either make an exception for Nepal, and this would be a very strong suggestion from my side, that they make because after all, it will help us to have a kind of a traditional, bonhomie continue, or else this loss of job profile should be compensated in the terms of number of CAPF vacancies increasing in India. So that will be another area which I feel needs to be done. Map issue, I think it needs to be with a little sagacity, although now that can be found out, a solution can be found out. It could be a joint management of that area which is disputed between the two countries. I think that would be the ideal kind of a solution, a joint management of that area. And therefore, if that is done, that will help us to resolve all this issue substantially. This monetization issue is, I think India needs to take a call on this. And definitely, we can't allow this money to remain in Nepal, and that can be taken off. One area, because of the climate change, the global warming and other things are going to become quite challenging in years to come. Disaster management, though Nepal is a member of Sendai framework 2015-2030, but this is one area where India can, because India has always been the first responder as far as Nepal is concerned. So therefore, we can help Nepal to build disaster resilient structures, disaster resilient infrastructure. So therefore, that can be done, because two major issues Nepal always suffers from. One is either floods, and in times to come it can be, and this glacial lake overflow also could be another area. And second is earthquakes. And therefore, in both these situations, say institutions like Roorkee and all, which are quite close to, located to, say, in Uttarakhand only, there are certain collaborative research can be done. Those things can be addressed. Trade deficit. Trade deficit will fund, I said, about energy exchange. Second is, we have to encourage to have not only the existing trade, but then some other things can also be done. If the small scale industries start coming up in Nepal, using the local technologies, we have got, there are schemes in India that Pura and Rura, that kind of a thing, with providing urban technologies in rural areas and all those things. That can be done, and that can help substantially creating small, because you can't, I'm not recommending that you start establishing some big industries or something, but the local things can be, which can be based on biofuels, which can be based on solar panels and things like that, tourism related. So all those things when we start doing, so therefore there's a very major scope for, say, cooperation between the two. However, when we talk of these things, there are certain areas where India has also its own concerns. The changing demography in the border areas. We had seen some cases where it has to be joint patrolling system, although there's about 26 checkpoints are there, two integrated points are also there, but then we need to go for better ensuring, better patrolling management, and above all, border management. I was trying to see Nepal's border laws are not as strong as they should be. Those laws can be, I mean, we know the cases of, say, what is that Seema Haidar's case and all, how she managed to come into India. And a lot of such people, say someone, Dilshad Beg in past, or say Bhatkal brothers and all that. We know all those cases. There are a large number of such cases. So therefore, the in-sharing should be strengthened. There is another thing which can be done is, that one point I forgot, I must mention it here. One of the issue was when the blockade was done was the petroleum products. So there is a pipeline which has been Motiari Amlekganj has been, so it is present, and future energy requirements it does take care. But there is another which is being, that is Siliguri Jhapa is coming up. It is being under planning. So therefore, energy wise, Nepal thereafter would be quite independent. And another thing which is very important, which has been done is electrical. There are two grids have been created. So it is not only that they can say about 10,000 megawatt they can sell to India, but balance they can put into BBIN. That is, say, Bhutan, Bangladesh, India, Nepal grid. And therefore, even they can trade with Bangladesh, which is energy deficient country. So this is something which can be done. Now, coming to further to this counter-terrorism thing, we need to have very strong commitment has to come from Nepal that their land would not be used for any kind of a terror activity or anti-India activity. Another thing which General Dushyant mentioned very rightly, that route of Nepal is being used very regularly these days by a lot of those illegal migrants who are coming from, say, Bangladesh or some other countries, say even Pakistan. So that thing needs to be checked. A system should be in place. I think that can be done by having a very regular meetings, and a mechanism can be created whereby it is seen. ISI footprint through the Nepal, Pakistan embassy in Nepal is strengthened. We know IC 814 case and all those things. So therefore, we need to strengthen that mechanism where ISI is not given a free run in Nepal. I'll stop here and balance when we can talk later.
Yeah. I think General Chaturvedi and General Singh had laid the foundation. And in any bilateral relations, there are areas of cooperation and there are also areas of challenges. How we try to resolve the challenge is very important. And there are a lot of issues as far as cooperation is concerned. Highlighted trade is one area, climate cooperation is there. Then there are other areas where we can cooperate in a very positive way. But there are concerns as far as border management is concerned. So we would like your views, Major General Basnet, and then Pramod Jaiswal.
Thank you, Dr. Roshan. And it's good to see General Dushyant Singh, the DZ clause. Thank you for inviting me. And General Chaturvedi, it was nice listening to you. And Pramodji, my friend, here in Kathmandu. There is no denial that Nepal and India relationship cannot be ignored, nor can it be taken away. It's a strong bond that we have. But yes, General Chaturvedi, pointed out that there are irritants, there are things that happen, but there are mechanisms that can address all these issues. And so the good things about our relationship is it's not just the culture, religion, the society, but it's because we live close by. I mean, it's geographical realities. But when you look at it strategically, I think there are other things that is coming up. Who is trying? With the attempt of, putting a gap in what we have. So that's why whenever I talk about Indian-Nepal relations, I always suggest that one important thing we have to realize, and Nepalese policymakers and the policymakers in Delhi must realize that we have to be able to maintain what we have in a stronger position, whether it is Agnipath, whether it is recruitment, whether it is our way of life, whether it is people-to-people relation, whether it is exchange of education, whatever. I think we have to stress more on making it stronger. And the second point is, since India is playing an influential role in global politics, at the same time, India has its own challenges. And the terrorist attack in Pahalgam, this created a shock. Not just in Delhi and all over India, but it's a shock to us Nepalese when a Nepali youth gets killed because of his belief, because he's a tourist. This is unacceptable. But it is sad that certain statements come out, but second statement that the Nepali government brought was strong enough. So this is where what I'm trying to bring out. This is where the gaps exist. Now, let me highlight two important points where things have not been working. One is the 12-point agreement between the Indian government, then Indian government, and the strategic shift that is brought out in Nepal, and the strategic ends, how that would perceive in our relationship. One. Second is the geopolitical factor, the politics that is more, inclined to India rather than Nepal could be used as whether it is, let's say, extra-regional powers' presence in Nepal and their policies, or whether it is our north neighbor, China's policy in Nepal. So these are the two important factors that is being in play, confusing the strong bond that our two. And General Chaturvedi also brought out issue about the EPG report. And what I see is, these are also things that have been playing around with as the sentiments in Kathmandu. But we have to be really clear on what it is going to. We should not face another shifts and challenges that confuses us and hampers our relationship, like the 12-point agreement. So I think we should be more enthusiastic with what is happening. Now, let's go to a different fold, like the counter-terrorism approach. Then we have mechanisms. We have Nepalese army and the Indian army have joint exercises, Surya Kiran, which basically focus on 2 points. One is counter-terrorism and the other is HADR operations. So we have mechanisms in place. But how do we mobilize this in times of lead like now, Operation Sindoor? And Operation Sindoor hasn't ended. Yes, the doctrinal change, the doctrinal shift. And these 4 weeks have been very swift with the shift in the Indian doctrine. But at the same time, what it is for Nepal and India relationship. What I think is we have to, not just Nepal, we have to see that the South Asian countries have been always garnering the non-aligned policy and neutrality as their nations, whereas now India, though was the main orchestrator in South Asia, in the world, to advocate for non-aligned policies, and a strong member of the non-aligned movement. I mean, the geopolitical environment has created such a situation that India is slowly moving away from this. So when it comes to counter-terrorism, I think countries in South Asia are still holding on the positions of neutrality and non-alignment, which I think has to differ, because terrorism is a common challenge. At the same time, non-aligned policies and neutrality is something to do with bilateralism and multilateralism. So I still think that Nepal did not come strong enough to counter to strong enough to for counter terrorism, is not strong enough statements, but at least at this there was a second statement that came out condemning terrorism in all forms. So that was a part of it, but initially it did not come. So this is also not a, I mean, when you talk about terrorism, this is, I mean, we also think of it as a bilateral problem, like Pakistan and India's problem. No? I think it is more than that. It is geopolitics. It is multilateral. It is linked with all. If you look at the scope of terrorism in South Asia, every country has been facing some way or the other on with acts of terrorism. So I think there is a need for a common answer. But more than that, when we are talking about Nepal-India relationship, I think we need to cooperate more on countering terrorism. And the geopolitical factor, why this is not really happening, is one is the rise of China and the interests of China in South Asia. The other is the domestic political systems that has been brought out in Nepal, and the third is the China and India's confrontation, and of course, I mean, U.S. and China's talks in everywhere. So it's U.S. and China's rivalry that has brought. I mean, the U.S. also withdrew, U.S. and then allies withdrew their forces from Afghanistan. So I think it has links. All of these things have linked to what has happened. But the nice thing is we have mechanisms in place, that is the joint military exercises. So I think Nepal should also use this as an opportunity, one, to clean up its land. Like when India is, I mean, since we have an open border, when people can move around easily, I mean, not thinking you are part of this or part of that, you know, we feel that we're together everywhere. So, and I think so the defense forces must also prepare itself on countering terrorism within Nepal to see if there are any elements there. At the same time, the law enforcement forces must cooperate equally well with the law enforcement forces with India and start screening the border areas, but not just the border areas, the areas but within in the Nepalese borders also. So I think these are things we have in hand that we can do. But like General Chaturvedi also brought out the issue of Agnipath. You know, so when I was giving a statement at the beginning, I think Nepal should continue with arrangements, with MOUs, treaties that Nepal and India has, even in a stronger way. So it is more in the interest of Nepal and India to continue to have a mechanism which is diplomatically very strong to advocate for Nepal in the Indian political elites. At the same time, I think the strong bond we had from the long time with, with the Nepalese citizens serving as part of the Gorkha Brigade or Indian Gorkha Brigades has always been in hand. So I think we should find a political way out so that the Agnipath becomes the recruitment becomes more transparent So I feel in the if you look at if you analyze the future of our region, I think these are important measures we should take in hand and work together. And the other point that I would like to make out is group together. We have to grow together, whether it is infrastructure development, whether it is investment, whether it is a securing chain of line of the line of supplies, whether it is utilizing our resources and water, whether it's for fresh water, energy for energy. So I think whenever we plan ourselves, I don't think we should see borders as a hindrance in planning. I think we should plan it together so that we can develop our infrastructure, use our resources in a win-win situation. So with that, I end. If there is anything else, then I will continue. Dr. Roshan.
Thank you, General Bisnath. I think Dr. Jaiswal is having problem joining through the link. His internet is giving some problem. So I would request General Singh and General Chaturvedi till the time he joins to comment on what General Bisnath just stated. General Singh, you need to unmute your mic.
Yeah, what I'll do is that since he's taking some time to join in, I think there is some internet problem at Dr. Pramod Jaiswal's end.
Yes.
But he's okay now. He's okay now. So we can ask him to give his comments, and I would like you to comment on two, three things. The first one is that how about the China factor weighing in what Jan Vinod said, that Nepal did not come out very actively supporting India during the Operation Sindoor, especially knowing fully well that one of your own citizens was also affected in this particular thing. What are the factors? What were the factors which were weighing in on Nepalese government from your point of view, not to come out so actively in support? You would have seen other nations, if their nationals get hurt or injured or lose their lives, they really make a lot of noise. I mean, you look at any country wherever they have had some kind of a adversity. India has been going out all the way to Ukraine and other parts of the world to bring out its citizens. So, in your talk, also highlight this particular issue. I'll be extremely grateful. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. I'm really sorry for the internet issue here. Hope you can hear me well. First of all, I'd like to thank USI for Clause for this invitation. I'm really grateful. Let me come with a few points and then I'll come to China factor. First, I could only hear the first two gentlemen. I could not hear Major General Binod Basnet, but maybe he might have highlighted that the Chief of Army Staff of Nepal is also honorary Chief of Army Staff of Indian Army, and which is very special, very unique in our relations apart from the open border. Second, there was a statement that during the attack of Pahalgam, even Nepalese was killed. I mean, when there is that shows that Nepalese are always there, whether you are. The friends are always there, whether you are in good times or bad times. During the bad time, we are killed. During the good time, we are there to fight against any of the adversaries of India through Gorkha regiment. So Nepalese are always there. It's not only Indians who are with Nepalese. Nepalese also always there to fight for India. So that is like very special relations that we have. Third is that border issue, as I briefly mentioned. I think the border issues should be resolved as soon as possible between the two countries. I think if India and Nepal cannot resolve the border issue, in spite of having so special relations, I don't think anyone can resolve any of the border issues, because we have very special relations. We can easily resolve it if there is kind of political will from both sides, and we should take that forward. Another is that I think people-to-people collaboration is very important, which we have seen. But again, at research level, I think that is lacking, because if you talk about number of India experts in Nepal or number of India studies in Nepal, that's very limited. Similarly, on the other side, the number of Nepal experts or number of Nepal studies center in India is very limited. I think we should work more on that. On top of that, I think the engagement between defense sector and all is also very important, because that is only at the government level. I think it has to come to a civilian government, civilian diplomacy level as well. Coming to terror and Sindoor, I think it was very unfortunate that Nepali was killed, and I think Nepal is strong with India on the fight against terror. Nepal clarified that this attack was not between India and Pakistan. It was not on Kashmir. It was a terrorist attack, and Nepal stand with any kind of terror attack, be it India or any parts of the world. I think Nepal should be joining hand with India in this process, and Nepal has done that. I think certain thing Nepal really has to stand with India in fight against terrorism. That the Sindhu operation is one of them. Nepal is strongly stood, and I think it is in the interest of the whole region. I mean, the largest beneficiary of Operation Sindoor like of activities will be Pakistan, because they are the one who are the biggest. Who are suffering from it. I mean, Pakistan should have welcomed those kind of operations. And if India is willing to extend hand to destroy the terrorist bases, which has been hurting not only Pakistan but India and the region. Coming back to China factor, I think China should be there standing with India when it comes to terror. But I think Chinese are still confused in their sense, because they are not able to differentiate what is terror and what is war. I mean, Chinese have stated it's a war. It was not a war. It was an attack on a civilian who had gone for tourism, where there was no armed forces on Indian side. So it was a terrorist attack. And I think it's a clear message that was given to India, but I don't know how Chinese missed to perceive it, and that's not taking well here in Nepal, because a Nepali was killed, and we wanted international community to comment on that and support India in terms of war on terror. Third is that I think radicalism is a one very serious issue here in this region. I mean, we can see how radicalism has flourished in Pakistan, initially by America before 1989 to fight against Soviet, and then by mosques and religious leaders to for jihad, so-called jihad, and then now Pakistani army in order to generate more fund for the Pakistan army, because they're not getting fund at the moment. So they want both internal pressure and external funding for them, and they are targeting India in that. So I think we should understand those kind of compulsions that Pakistan army have at the time, and that is how different groups in Pakistan have supported terrorists. Initially it was US backed, later it was madrasa backed, now it's Pakistani army backed. So I think that is one very thing that I think we have to come for. I think when we come to China angle, I think what Nepal, India, and other countries have to share with the Chinese, that they can be also one of the. Look at the number of projects in POK where Chinese. CPEC. The number of projects that Chinese have invested, they are also being targeted by terrorists. So I think Chinese should understand that today, if you clap on the other side, tomorrow you can be the recipient. So I think Chinese have to learn that lesson. I think Indians will also convey that it's a terrorist, and look how we have been suffering, and you will be the next in future. I think that is where we have to express that, not only to China but many countries in the region. Let me end with Nepal-India relation. As I said, every speaker have clearly said that it's very special relations, very unique. I come from a place which is very Indian to the border. In fact, half of my family or people in the Madhesh, I come from Madhesh region, come from India or are married to India. Similarly, on the Indian side, there are half of the family members who are from Nepal. So we have similar language, similar culture. For a long time, we used to use Indian currency. Half of the family members from our family used to go to India to study in Indian towns. Indian used to come to Nepalese side for treatment. Those exchanges are very special. I mean, people basically talk about that, there is cross-border marriage only at high level. But it is at all level, which has been missed at the moment. On top of that, I think what is very important at the moment is a kind of new kind of vigor, because what has happened is that when India has emerged as a power, when India is moving forward, India is focusing more on distant neighbor, where it is US or maybe some countries in Middle East. At times, countries like Nepal feel that they are being sidelined, which is not the fact, but they feel that. I think the reason behind is that there are new aspirations, new desire, new dreams in the mind of Nepalese. Like when India is rising, Nepal also aspired to rise like India. When India has new desire, dreams, and aspirations, similar new dreams, desire, aspirations are coming in the mind of Nepal. So I think it is also on Indian side to join hand with Nepal and take Nepal along in the path of development. India can't develop without taking its neighbor along. I mean, if India, I mean, Bhutan and Nepal is one of the example. That's why I think uh, India is giving high importance to these countries when it comes to foreign aid. I mean, Bhutan and Nepal and these neighbors are one of the largest recipient of Indian assistance, and which have been done miracle in the country. There are lots of development projects are on Indian assistance, and people are benefiting from it, be it education, health, or any sector. I'd like to end it here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dr. Jaswal. You have laid out certain important points, like the aspirations part of it. If India is growing, Nepal would also like to grow in a similar fashion, and absolutely agree with you. But it's always a two-way process, and there are concerns like what Jan Chaturvedi has already highlighted. There is a question in the question box from our audience, and it is addressed to Jan Basnet, because he although referred to it in a very oblique manner, but Mr. Ashish would like to know, why did Nepal not actively support India in Operation Sindoor? Even a basic statement condemning the Pahalgam terror attack came in late, which you mentioned that the statement condemning the attack came in late. But the aspirations of the people out here was that it should have been a little more kind of active support from Nepal. Uh, I felt that China factor was probably the reason why it didn't happen like this. But anyway, kindly give your views on this.
I'd like to respond the first question, like why did Nepal not support actively? I think yes, I mean Nepal could have done a lot. As a very close neighbor, Nepal should have come with a very strong statement at the initial period. They came much later on this statement, and it was like we have been pressing the government here. We said that the government should come with a very strong. But the problem here is also Nepal. We have this very fragmented political system. At the moment, we have KP Sharma only with the government, who is from the left party, who see things very differently. He is very close to China, and he might have seen it very differently, which we have been criticizing Oli government that they should have come strongly on these issues. Similarly, the relation that he has maintained with India is very strained at the moment. I mean, no, not, I mean, never in the history of Nepal we have seen such a low in Nepal India relations that we have seen during Oli's tenure in the past, even at the moment. So I think it is Nepal's failure. Nepal should have come with a very strong statement, especially when a Nepali is killed by a terrorist group. I mean, he don't need to support India, but at least he should support his own citizen. He should strongly condemn on the day that a Nepali citizen is killed. I'll give you one example. That Indian ambassador to Kathmandu, he visited the home of the victim, but the Prime Minister has not made a statement, not send any condolences to the family. Neither he has visited or anyone from the government. So you can see how disheartening here it is. As you said that we also believe that he should come with a very strong statement. Nepal had missed that opportunity not only this many times in the past, and we see it as a failure of KP Oli's foreign policy. I mean, Nepal could have done a lot on these issues. Thank you.
Can I add, Dr. Dushant?
Please go ahead, Basnet.
Okay, when you're talking, I mean, one of the points that I brought out earlier was of the geopolitical factor. So when you're talking about geopolitical factor, I think two things come to my mind. One is the domestic challenges, and the other is diplomacy. The understanding and the confusion of understanding the non-aligned policies enshrined in our constitution, in our foreign policy, at the same time neutrality and differentiating between events. But if you look at the past, 3 years ago when Russia attacked Ukraine, Nepal voted against the Russian aggression. I mean, and they came out quite strongly. I mean, I'm feeling that. So I think even this act of terrorism should have been condemned in a stronger manner than getting confused to what neutrality and non-aligned policies. So we have to be very clear on understanding and taking out statements on issues that are common to all of us, and all of us condemn the issues. One. And the second is the domestic challenges. I think Dr. Pramod just brought it out a little bit. Let me just add, one of them is the political instability. And when I talk about political instability, I'm talking about one important thing that's happening is the political parties' alignment with the political forces of China or India or other countries. This is not in the national interest of Nepal. It is not in the interests of the Nepalese Communist Party uniting with the Communist Party of China is not in the interest of Nepal. One. Nor the Nepali Congress aligning with the BJP is in the interest of Nepal. I think the government to government relationship and national relationship plays a more important part for both of our countries to have a stronger bond. Second is the politicalizations of institutions in Nepal. And this is also due to political instability. So when our institutions, Nepalese institutions, are being politicalized, I think there is a tendency of not reacting to things that the country should react as a nation. Like the incident in Pahalgam is an incident that Kathmandu should have strongly come out, particularly when its citizens, not just its citizens, even if Nepalese were not there, I think Nepal, Kathmandu should have condemned it even harder and find ways to work together. And this should have been very open because this is our common challenges. We have worked for it. We have mechanisms for it. So why feel shy and delay in what we do? But one of the TV had called me for a program a day before the statement came out. And I had mentioned this very strongly, saying that Nepal has not done enough. And I pointed out 2 points. One is about the condemnation and acting. The other hat Nepal is wearing now is the chair of SARC. I know SARC doesn't work. I know Delhi doesn't like. But at the same time, what we must understand is we have a mechanism in place in SARC. Wouldn't it have been very nice if the rest 6 countries, capitals, came out together as a member of the suppressions of counterterrorism that is enshrined in the SARC chapter? Wouldn't that have been of value? Yes, it would indeed. And the other mechanism, BIMSTEC. We have multilateral exercises. We have Chiefs Conference. We have National Security Chiefs Conference. We have joint military exercise on counterterrorism. Why isn't this international intergovernmental organization acting? At least a statement would have done a lot that these are common challenges and we need to work together. Yeah, thank you.
General Besnet, I think you have raised 2, 3 shortcomings as far as even the diplomatic initiative is concerned. Uh, don't you think that there are certain countries which give out statements which preempts such a kind of a cooperation which you are referring to, whether it is the SARC or whether it is BIMSTEC? For example, giving a statement that we should make a federation of Bhutan, Nepal, and northeastern states and Bangladesh. Now, this kind of a fragmentation of a country. I mean, you're trying to fragment a country. It's not in a good place. So therefore, people lose faith with SARC. Now, that having been said, I fully endorse your point that we should have exploited these BIMSTEC and the SARC forum also to come out very strongly against the act of terror and also solidarity with the actions which India was taking. Maybe the fault lies both on all the sides where we didn't push too much because we were busy in planning for retribution on the perpetrators of the act, and therefore we were slightly over busy on that point. But I think the others should have also got together. in my view, China seems to be the elephant in the room. What is your views on this, Jal Chaturvedi? Is it the China factor which is trying to split all this cooperation which we are talking of, which Jal Basnet has been highlighting, which Dr. Jaswal is highlighting? Over to you, sir.
China is the
In
elephant
view,
in the room.
now it's okay, sir.
No, I'm not. I'm okay. So what I'm saying is that China indeed is the elephant in the room, and unless you call him out, and we collectively need to call him out, and this is where the whether it is KB Sharma Oli's government in Nepal is concerned or Muhammad Yunus government in Bangladesh is concerned, effort of them to fragment South Asia's unity is detrimental for the growth of the entire region. You look at it, Muhammad Yunus is trying to create say fracture within country, within India, which will never be accepted. So the hereafter, SAR gets another very say mortal blow. India-Pakistan relations, in any case, is stymied because of SARC issue. But further, what Muhammad Yunus has done recent times, that's bad, and it has been done with the instigation of China. And to my mind, as far as Bangladesh is concerned, it is not only China. It is even US is say implicit in this. There is no doubt in my mind that therefore, in case if you want to challenge him, and India has got adequate support system for both. For last almost 10, 15 years, Bangladesh was being supported in every for their growth, and their growth was at one point of time even better than India. So therefore, the kind of steady growth which is there in Nepal in case of energy, in case of other areas in the education, the trade, that can be only if it is support. Nepal also needs to realize, Bangladesh also needs to realize that BRI is not aid. You got to pay 6.5% interest. Case in point is Sri Lanka's case. Today, Pakistan is having they are reaching a stage where they have no choice but to remain a captive to China. So therefore, China has its own design, which is expansionist. China has its own design to look after their interest in South Asia, in Tibet, in the second part, which Dr. Roshan would be talking of, say climate change and all, because they are suffering much more than what any other country is suffering. So stealing water from Brahmaputra and things like from Indus, from Pakistan, they are doing all these kind of things. So therefore, in case if we want to challenge China, South Asia has to come together. And these are the things, if you notice in the entire this post Pahalgam issue of Sindoor, one of the greatest beneficiaries has been China. I mean, America has not come out. They have come when they equated India with Pakistan. One is victim and other is perpetrator, and yet so their geopolitics is coming out. They are getting exposed. China is not getting exposed, but they are getting exposed in the sense tomorrow when UNSC resolution comes, they will be exposed. So my sense is China needs to be challenged and to be called for what they are doing in the region.
Jan Chaturvedi, thank you very much for that. Uh, I would like, there's another question in the question box which says that Jan Binod referred to arriving at a win-win solution. Can he elaborate and suggest some solutions keeping that China is going to be a factor? I mean, whatever we may say that, China has done this, China is in the elephant room. I think it's a very genuine question. The China factor will remain. So how do we come up with a win-win situation, win-win solution? probably there is another question in the question box. After that, we will call it an end to this particular particular
Yeah.
discussion because we already crossed 1 hour. So over to you, Jan, Vinod, and thereafter, if Dr. Jaswal also wants to add something on it, he can add on. And
Okay.
I see a hand raised by Jan Chaturvedi, so you can also refer to it. We'll go in this order, sir. The first, Jan Vinod.
Okay. Now, we must, I think, what we have to, when you talk about China in the room, we have to also acknowledge that China's interests have been changed dramatically. And one of them is, yes, BRI in South Asia, but the projections of having South Asia as a bridge to the Indian Ocean for resources is a cause. And in Nepal, the policymakers find it very politically comfortable playing India, China, and the United States cards. Okay, you China. At the same time, when I look at Indian policymakers, I think there is a tendency of looking at Nepal-India relationship from the Chinese lens. So I think we should get away from this and look into our relationship from Nepal, India relation, connections. And now going back to what the question is about, win-win situation, it is one, again, I stress the connections that we have, the treaties, the MOUs, the arrangements that Nepal and India has to be strengthened. And one of the ways is, as I brought out earlier, strategic planning. We have to, Delhi, Kathmandu has to find a common way of looking into each other, developing each other together. And, as Pramod, Dr. Pramod also brought out earlier, I think there is no, I mean, the borders are there, but I think like when you were bringing out issue about climate doesn't have borders. So I think we should look into the people and people comfort and don't see border as an obstacle in strategic planning. So when we get infrastructure, when we have our Nepal's resources utilized well, and when you see the economic growth of Nepalese people, it is in the benefit for Delhi, and it is a benefit for both our people, and that is what is going to bind us together. That is, I mean, bind us together even stronger. So that is my say on, like, when I say win-win, I think it is we working together for our common goal with the strategic planning.
Dr. Jaswal, would you like to add something to it?
Yes, sir. Sir, I think sometimes China is overemphasized when it comes to Nepal-India relations, and it is done by New Delhi. I mean, there is no comparison between Nepal-India relation and Nepal-China relations. You just mentioned that 80% trade is with India. More than 90% Nepalese study in India. You know, uh, uh, almost almost every Nepali can speak Hindi. Now, how many Nepali can speak Chinese, or how many Chinese can speak Nepali? Now, 5% or 10% trade is with China. You said BRI. There is not a single project that Nepal has done under BRI. So how can you compare? So what happens is that sometimes when you do a study, we compare Nepal and with China and US. It's very uncomparable. You can't compare 80% with 10%. But what is alarming is that it is increasing. In recent times, China has expanded its footprints in Asia, South Asia, and sorry, even including Pakistan. And we know the reason behind it, that China want, India is emerging as a power. It's challenging uh, China, so it's want to use Pakistan to keep India engaged within the South Asia. So that is the broader politics. But when it comes to Nepal, still China will have to wait maybe 100 and 200 years to come to become at comparable par with India, because we have common culture, common religion, deep people-to-people relations. That is not going to happen between China and Nepal. How many Nepalese will be able to speak Mandarin or enjoy Chinese culture, Chinese food in next 200 years? It's impossible. So I think sometime we just overemphasized that, oh, China is emerging and all. It's not at that level. Yes, their diplomacy is very active. They are engaging their engagement. So look at the number of projects that Chinese are doing and Indians. Still, it's huge difference. So I think we don't need to emphasize China so much at when you're talking about Nepal in a relation, especially. Thank you.
General Chaturvedi, would you like to add something? You raised your hand, sir.
Just very small thing. What Dr. Jaswal said very rightly. BRI initially 2017, when this agreement was signed, 35 projects were finalized. Not even one reached fruition, not one even started. Then in 2022, they came out with the 2024, they came out with the 9 projects. And even now they have not reached any. On the contrary, there are a large number of hydroelectric projects India is doing. So to my mind, the best way to re-establish that trust deficit, overcoming that trust deficit, is better economic integration with Nepal, in the sense that more people should be, like I said, that scholarship should be given. They come and study in our institutions more and more. And we must establish our, say, IITs, IIMs, they must establish their chapters in Nepal. Because the moment capacity is built, all their energy utilization and other, say, manufacturing facilities, which is in the smaller domain in IT sector or electronic sector, those facilities can come up in Nepal quite substantially, and that will help them to bridge that, say, trade deficit. So with those kind of things, because case in point, again, one must learn, Maldives, Sri Lanka, they had, I mean, the way during Mahinda Rajapaksa's time, even the present Moidu's time in Maldives, they had gone overboard. But now they are all India. So this is, I think, economic integration and disaster management, because climate change, I think we need to be very, very cognizant of this, and we must work on these things. These are the areas in which we must work together.
Right, sir. I think we are totally out of time. There is one question which I think we have already addressed, but I'll just flash it for the benefit of our guests. It is Chetan JS who says, should India restrict its access for Nepal because nature of Nepal has changed? It is not the same which was friendly to New Delhi about 15, 20 years back. I think we have answered this question, Chetan, that
It's a question.
while things change as far as Nepal is concerned, we have also changed. So there has to be change is the only constant, and in this change we have to find some solution. So some suggestions, some wonderful suggestions have come. We should not overemphasize China. I think that is something which we should take home.
Yeah.
Then also we need to understand that even General Vinod said that we should look at a strategic cooperation between India and Nepal, and not India, Nepal, China. China can have a relationship with Nepal based on Nepal's interest. After all, every country today is working for its own sovereign interest. So I think we have to recognize each country's requirement. I'm leaving all of you with one single thought, and that is sorry, Dr. Roshan. Abhi, now we are totally out of time, so otherwise I would have asked you to give some concluding comments. But I'm leaving you all with one thought. And since we have our guests from Nepal, see, we do have Gurkha regiments, and a lot of our Gurkha regiment boys are Nepali citizens. Even now, despite the fact that Agniveer has kind of slowed the movement of people coming to the Gurkha regiments from Nepal, but the difference between the Gurkhas in Nepal and Gurkhas in India is not much. I can quote you generals who are in Nepal and their brothers are in India. Take for
Yeah.
example Shakti Gurung. Both were, I mean, one brother is in Nepal there. So we've got this kind of a dilemma in future. So I would like the country to realize, I mean, both the countries to realize that it's very difficult to separate us, but it is also important for us to come together in a common crisis situation. And here it was a common crisis situation. I'm fully appreciate the way both the speakers have actually come out strongly and said that the actions of Nepal government were much short of what was required as part of Operation Sindoor. We may have our
Yeah.
differences on various
Right.
issues. Those can be solved with diplomacy and talks, etc., etc. But I think this was something which a major lesson learned. With that, I would like to thank every one of you and a very warm greetings from India to Nepal. That Nepal should grow as well as India is growing, and India will fully support. Like I said, we have a budget earmarked for Nepal separately from the others. The concerns of border management remain the major concern. Thank you very much, and Jai Hind to all of you. Jai Nepal to all of you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.